Well, Dev Diary number 23 is upon us. The final Dev Diary for this year and in fact until January 15th. This offering is the Sounds of Seattle. Would have been nice if they'd have left us with a little character creation or customization, but no, we get those next year. Instead, this Dev Diary offers us an awful lot of technical information, screenshots of how they've mapped the world with sound, and the obligatory "this is Foley work. We smash fruit," and other things to get all those gnarly sound effects that make the world come alive. And on some level, it might be interesting, but if you know anything about Foley work, it's a lot of the same old, same old. In fact, they've already shown us some of this in previous Dev Diaries. But hey, everybody on the dev team, including the sound guys, need to be shown a little love. So besides the obvious, what is in this Dev Diary that is of any interest to us? One cool aspect was how they layer sound effects. Say you're walking along a piece of concrete, maybe you splash a puddle, or enter some snow and there's leaves on that snow. Each of these scenarios generates a different sound effect for your shoes. They even accounted for walking through a puddle of water and then leaving that puddle and your shoes still being squishy. An awful lot of work in the Unreal Engine to ensure that sounds react to where you are. How does the wind sound in the trees versus sound in an alley? If they pull this off, it ought to make it nice and immersive. This hopefully will make it so that no matter where you're walking, it sounds realistic and gives you that vibe of being in a city that is in fact alive, unlike fire. Nope, the information about the audio still hasn't helped that name. Another cool thing they mentioned is that you will have different sounds depending on the type of clothing you're wearing. I'm not sure how many games I've played where that has been the case, but that's cool. In another portion of the article, while showing some demonstrations of sounds as you traverse a mock-up of Seattle, they show your character climbing a drain pipe. That's kind of neat. Different ways to get up a building instead of just a fire escape or crawling up a wall. All of that is part of a demo of how sound gets closer and farther, and the actual sound of traversing different surfaces. Another thing they're doing is taking into consideration for all those people with surround sound. They're having their game actually take advantage of that and provide spatial clues. A lot of games do this, but honestly most of them tend to do it either to an extreme or barely at all. I mean, we've all played a game where all of a sudden the important sound is in the back left speaker for some reason and nowhere else. They're trying to tell us they're doing a really good job of that, so well, let's hope they actually do. Another interesting tidbit is they have chosen separate sounds to represent each class. If you're a Tremere, you're going to get a lot of squishy blood kind of sounds. Squish, squish, squash. If you're playing a Ventru, your abilities are going to sound like clangs and chains and metal. They didn't go over what the Banu Hakim or the Bruja sound like. But hey, gnarly little sonic motifs are fine with me, so long as there's story to go along with it. They even have systems in place that if your character's perched high atop one of those buildings and still for a while, the soundscape will change, by the sounds becoming more ethereal as you sit and watch the city below you. And while they didn't go into great detail, they mentioned that when in the UI, depending on your character's class, the sound effects will be different. Now that's actually kind of cool. Maybe not, ooh, I gotta go buy the game right now, cool, but you know, it's a nifty little effect, and sometimes those little things really add up. As for combat sounds and sound mixing, they note that when you're in combat, certain sounds will take precedence over others. They specifically call out not wanting to overwhelm the player with sounds while in combat, meaning that the surrounding sounds will be dampened, and depending on what's happening in combat, you will hear different sounds at different volumes, such as fist-to-face action will not be as loud as a gunshot. And they want to ensure that you'll hear that gunshot and have an idea from where it came if you're not the one doing the shooting. And they also want to play with the effects of sound on your character to heighten your emotions or a particular state of mind. So if they want you to feel like you're alone and isolated, they pull the sounds away from you through what they call an eerie sense of emptiness. I'll certainly give them this. Besides using the word narrative audio an awful lot, the Chinese room does seem to be focused on that narrative and on enhancing it through audio. Maybe every dev studio does this, but it does feel like they're putting a specific emphasis on it. And hey, you can't fault them for that. And as mentioned at the top of this video, there's an awful lot of technical diagrams showing layouts of sound triggers and meshes and all manner of gnarly technical things that don't mean much unless you're actually doing it, other than to highlight just how freaking complicated it is to make a game these days. And they have several little videos exemplifying some of these principles, such as ambient noise, the sounds of walking on various surfaces, and things like that. And yes, they had to start the video out with an individual who says he's enthused but sounds like he's a wet noodle. But that's not really his fault, as that's not his job to be an enthusiastic presenter. It's just interesting that so often every one of these Chinese room developers seems to be so low-key. Maybe they're just all saving it for their game dev work. And finally, they tell us that, yep, they're going on break until January 15th, but next year we're going to see things like customizing your fire. You know, like you used to throw those little colored pellets into a fireplace to turn the flames different colors, and quite possibly most notably of them all, planned DLC, which is interesting as Paradox Entertainment indicated that they're done with this property as soon as they ship it. And of course, we know that next year we're supposed to actually get this little sucker in our hands. Well, that's going to do it for Bloodlines 2 for this year. What are you folks thinking? Got anticipation for this game? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.